Hello there, sports fans. My name is Bryce, and welcome to another football edition of Sports Dreamer Podcast. In this edition, we'll talk about starts and sits for Week 4. But before we go to our starts and sits, let's go over our hits and misses from Week 3. Some of our hits from the running back position for Week 3 includes the names of James Robinson and the running back combo of the 49ers, Jerick McKinnon and Jeff Wilson. McKinnon and Wilson coexisted in the absence of running back Raheem Mostert. Some of our misses from the running back position includes the names of David Montgomery, Dion Lewis, and Leonard Fournette. And after a strong week 2 from Uncle Lenny, what a week 3 letdown. Some of our hits from the wide receiver position includes the names of Robert Woods, Allen Robinson, and the home cooking of Tyler Lockett, who had 3 touchdowns on week 3. I guess you have to continue to let Russ cook. Some of our wide receiver misses includes the names of Cooper Cup, who finally showed up on the stat sheet, Randall Cobb, and another big letdown from OBJ. We just don't know if or when OBJ will actually show up. Let's move to our starts and sits for week 4. And for our game of the week is the Thursday night football between the Denver Broncos and the New York Jets. Don't tell me I did try. For the Broncos, you can start running back Melvin Gordon, as Philip Lindsay might be limited or out during this game. And for your sits, I'll sit wide receiver Jerry Jeudy. As of now, the QB will be Brett Ripien, and we're not sure how good he would be under the spotlight. And for your Jets, it'll be the same as last week. Why bother? But if your team is decimated in the running back position and you don't have a choice, I'm not going to stop you if you want to start Frank Gore. But that's only if you're really desperate. Let's go to our Sunday games. It's the Indianapolis Colts versus Chicago Bears. For the Colts, you'll start running back Jonathan Taylor and wide receiver T.Y. Hilton. And for your sits, you still sit Naheem Hines. As for 2 weeks in a row, he's been MIA. For your Bears, start running back David Montgomery and wide receiver Allen Robinson. With Nick Foles starting as quarterback, you saw the connection between Allen Robinson and him. But I'll still hold wide receiver Anthony Miller on the bench. Next game is the New Orleans Saints versus Detroit Lions. For the Saints, I'll start both running backs Alvin Kamara and Latavius Murray. And if wide receiver Michael Thomas is a go, I'll start him as well. With empty coming back, I'll put Emmanuel Sanders on the bench. For the Lions, I'll only have the confidence on starting Kenny Golladay, and I'll sit both running backs Adrian Peterson and DeAndre Swift. And also, I will sit wide receiver Marvin Jones Jr. as he is a boom or bust. Next game is the Arizona Cardinals versus Carolina Panthers. For the Cards, I'll start running backs Kenyon Drake and Chase Edmonds, together with wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins. I'll sit wide receivers Christian Kirk and Larry Fitzgerald. With the emergence of wide receiver Isabella, there's too many mouths to feed in the Cards offense. For the Panthers, I'll start running back Mike Davis and wide receiver DJ Moore, and I'll sit wide receiver Robbie Anderson. It's really hard to gauge if and when Robbie Anderson will actually show up. Next game is Jacksonville Jaguars versus Cincinnati Bengals. For the Jags, we'll start running back James Robinson and wide receiver Keenan Cole, as wide receiver DJ Chark is questionable to play this week. For your sits, we'll sit running back Chris Thompson. For the Bengals, we'll keep starting Joe Mixon as your running back and also start wide receiver Tyler Boyd, while benching both wide receivers AJ Green and wide receiver T. Higgins. Even when T. Higgins exploded last week, we still want to see if he is consistent enough to produce those points. Next game is the Cleveland Browns versus Dallas Cowboys. For the Browns, we'll start both running backs Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, but monitor Kareem Hunt's availability for this week as he popped up on the injury list with a groin injury. Also, we'll start wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. And for your sits, I'll sit wide receiver Jarvis Landry. This Cleveland offense is a run-first offense, and we're not sure how many passes are available to go around. For the Cowboys, we'll start running back Ezekiel Elliott and wide receivers Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup, but we'll put wide receiver CeeDee Lamb on the bench. CeeDee hasn't gotten the opportunity to explode, but be patient with him if you have him. his time will come. Next game is the Minnesota Vikings versus Houston Texans. For the Vikings, we'll start running back Dalvin Cook and wide receiver Adam Thielen, and we'll sit backup running back Alexander Mattison and wide receiver Justin Jefferson. Although Jefferson showed up last week, the inconsistency of Kirk Cousins worry me. For the Texans, we'll start running back David Johnson, and finally, a relatively soft matchup after a brutal 3 weeks for David Johnson. We'll also start wide receivers Will Fuller and Randall Cobb, but we'll put wide receiver Brandon Cooks on the bench, as he is only limited to one big play. Next game is the Seattle Seahawks versus Miami Dolphins. And for your Seahawks, I'm not hiding from running back Carlos Hyde this week. We'll start him together with wide receivers Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. And due to a knee sprain, we'll hold running back Chris Carson on the bench. For the Dolphins, we'll start running back Miles Gaskins and wide receiver Devante Parker. And we'll sit running back Jordan Howard. There's no way Jordan Howard will always fall into the end zone. Next game is the LA Chargers versus Tampa Bay Buccaneers. For your Chargers, we'll start running back Austin Eckler and wide receiver Keenan Allen. And we'll sit running back Joshua Kelly and wide receiver Mike Williams. We're still not sure how healthy Mike Williams is after 3 weeks. For the Bucks, we'll start running back Ronald Jones Jr. and wide receiver Mike Evans, as wide receiver Chris Godwin won't play this week due to a hamstring injury. And for your sit, we'll sit Uncle Lenny Leonard Fournette. He popped out on the injury list with an ankle injury, and even if he plays, I'm not sure how many touches he would get, so I'll hold him in the sidelines. Next game is the Baltimore Ravens versus Washington Football Team. For your Ravens, we'll start running back Mark Ingram and wide receiver Marquise Brown. And for your sits, I'll sit running back J.K. Dobbins. With this backfield, we just don't know how many touches J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards would get. For Washington, we'll start running back Antonio Gibson and wide receiver Terry McLaurin, but we'll hold running back Peyton Barber on the bench. After a week 1 explosion, we haven't seen Peyton Barber on the barbershop. Next game is the New York Giants versus LA Rams. For your Giants, I'm not comfortable starting anyone, so I'll sit big letdown running back Dion Lewis, running back Devontae Freeman, and wide receiver Darius Slayton. For your Rams, we'll start running back Darrell Henderson together with wide receivers Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, but we'll sit running back Malcolm Brown. We're not sure if Brown has already recovered from that injury. Next game is the New England Patriots versus Kansas City Chiefs. And for your Pats, we'll start running back James White and wide receiver Julian Edelman. And we'll sit running back Sony Michel, as he might not be utilized here due to the high scoring power of the Chiefs. And speaking of the Chiefs, we'll start running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire and wide receiver Tyreek Hill. But we'll bench wide receiver Mecole Hardman and Sammy Watkins. It's just Patrick Mahomes has so many options in the passing game. Next game is the Buffalo Bills versus Las Vegas Raiders. For the Bills, we'll start running back Devin Singletary and wide receiver Stephon Diggs, and we'll sit wide receiver John Brown. Running back Zach Moss is still dealing with an injury. That's why we start Singletary. For the Raiders, we'll start running back Josh Jacobs and wide receiver Hunter Renfrow. The reason why we start Renfrow is because both wide receivers Henry Ruggs and Brad Edwards are questionable to play this week. Next game is the Philadelphia Eagles versus San Francisco 49ers. For the Eagles, we'll only start running back Miles Sanders and we'll sit whoever their pass catchers are. The Eagles' wide receivers are decimated with injury. For the Niners, we'll continue to roll with running backs Jerick McKinnon and Jeff Wilson, but we'll hold wide receiver Brandon Ayuk on the bench. As of this recording, tight end George Kittle might be available to play this week, and it will take some of the targets away from Ayuk. And for our game of the week is the Monday Night Football between the Atlanta Falcons and Green Bay Packers. For the Falcons, we'll start running back Todd Gurley, and if they are cleared to play, we'll also start wide receivers Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, and Russell Gage. This would be a back and forth high scoring affair, so don't be afraid to start those wide receivers. And for your Packers, we'll start running back Aaron Jones with wide receivers Davante Adams and Allen Lazard. I think the Packers have already found the number 2 to Davante Adams. And for your sit, we'll sit wide receiver MVS, as we didn't see him capitalize on the absence of Devante Adams on week 3. And before we finish off the starts and sits for week 4, just a heads up that the Titans and Steelers game has been postponed to a later date. This is due to positive COVID tests that came back from the Titans players, coaches, and staffs. We hope that everyone from the Titans team are doing okay. So if you have players from the Titans and Steelers, the players already have a bye week designation. So take them out from your lineup. So there you have it, our starts and sits for week 4. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to hit the like button and hit subscribe. Feel free to leave a comment if you have any questions or suggestions. We'll see you next time.